Hi, hello. I wondered whether when you create your titles for your pieces, do they come before you've created the piece or is it afterwards?
With the paintings, the
Yes.
titles, so I always have this, I'm not going to go into it, but I have these really weird working titles. So one title in there, we always refer to the painting as the Bloody Bowl. I have another painting which I refer to as the Clemente. I have another painting which, I like different artists, you know what I mean? I just say, oh, that really reminds me of a so-and-so, so I just call that painting by that artist's name until I come around to titling it.
Mm-hmm.
And the titles with the paintings always come afterwards. And sometimes I write on the painting, so we refer to that painting, whatever I've written on it, for example, but then I title it something different underneath. So, and then with a show, I always have the title for the show before I have the show, always. Because I have to have a dialogue with myself as I'm working and understand what I'm working up towards and why I'm doing it. So I don't have a show and then just whack a title up. It's got to be the other way around. So, but I write a lot. I used to write my column for The Independent every week. And that was 1,000 words a week, which for most of you might not seem much. And the fact that I could write whatever I liked really was, carte blanche, let me off, the hook. It wasn't proper writing. But I did really enjoy it. I really love writing. And now I write maybe 3,000 or 4,000 words a week now. Yeah, but not even like a diary. I haven't kept a diary for years, because I know if I keep a diary it will be read when I'm dead and I'd have to burn it. And the reason why people write diaries is because they want other people to read them, essentially. And I'd rather write a book. So.
Do you write by hand or?
Both. No, I never write on a computer. Can't use a computer. I've got an iPad which I watch things on, but I use the phone. And I've always been text messaging since right from the beginning. Been text messaging for 20 years now. So it's really easy for me to use a phone, and I write by hand. And my handwriting is quite extraordinary as well, so reams and reams of writing. And if you look in the Ashes room, there's the little vitrines, and that stuff that's in there is just from my box of art, my things that I don't want to sell, and all the watercolours that are in the far vitrine that are kind of really angry, they're all on the other side as well, they're on both sides. And I've got boxes full of little notebooks and drawing pads and different things. So it's a constant resource of myself, really. Yeah.
Are those the most personal things that you don't want to sell, or?
It's not even not wanting to sell, they're just mine, aren't they? Yeah.
Could you talk a bit about the way the layers work in the paintings? Because in some of them, the figures seem extremely kind of erased, and in other paintings there's really a sense of kind of ghosts and presences coming through the paint.
So as I said, one of the paintings in there I started in 2000 and I think actually 2006, and it was painting of one thing, painted over it, painted another thing, painted over it, painted over it, painted over it. And sometimes I do this because I don't think the painting's good enough, and other times I do it just because I don't have any canvases, so it's just like the one I least value at the time gets painted over. So you see the ghost building up. But sometimes it's because I've done a painting of myself in bed with a man, and then I realise that the man's got to go, so I just paint him out. It's that simple. He's gone. Or maybe he's a ghost. Maybe it's a memory, or maybe it's someone coming, Who knows?
Because it seems like then you reassert yourself back on top of the...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then other times it might be, it might also be that I find that the paint's just too easy. For me, I've done the painting too easy. And it's too much of a pastiche of me, and so I don't like it. And my reclining figure is more like a kind of cave woman motif that I've been painting for years and years and years. Someone talked to me the other day and they said to me, I can see, Matisse in your work. And I went, really? And I said, why? And they said, from the cutouts. And I said, oh. And I said, oh, you mean the figure? And I was actually on a sofa at the time when they were talking to me. And I said, oh, you mean this shape? You mean that shape? I said, this is me. This is how I sit. This is how I've been sitting for years. A damn sight before I ever saw any of Matisse's cutouts. Don't tell me Matisse owns how I sit. So we got into that kind of argument. So sometimes with the reclining figure, for example, it's too easy for me to do, so I paint it out. And then the reclining figure starts to be something else, really sexy, angry, something else. I bring the landscape in, I bring the person in, I paint the whole thing out. I decide there's too much colour, it looks really shit. Paint the whole thing out. I decide it's really amazing, I just got to change this little bit here, completely ruin the whole thing. Then decide to paint the whole thing out. I paint the whole thing black and then then white and then start over again. And every time I'm doing that, we got Harry, by the way, who is my creative person in my life, my creative director at the studio. Harry's worked for me for 10 years. Harry's got lots of clips of film of me painting, and some of them are really violent and so aggressive where I'm going ballistic at the canvas. But you never feel that when you see the paintings. There looks like there's an element of control, but it's quite an emotional. I don't like it when I paint, when I think, and it's technical. I like it when it's a reactionary response to what I'm doing, it's physical. So, and with my new studio in Margate, it's so big, it's like 30,000 square feet, I'm going to have giant rooms where I can just put a boiler suit on and I can just get buckets of paint. I can go fucking ballistic. And I have visions of me when I'm like an 80-year-old woman, with buckets of paint. It's just going to be incredible. I've got something to work towards when I'm old. But all of this stuff you've got to stay fit for. All of this stuff you've got to stay mentally agile for. All of this stuff you've got to feel like you really want it. It's like running a marathon and it's at the end. That's my end, that's my sprint. So I've got this to look forward to, but I've got to really work at it, and it can't just happen on its own. So I do not want to end up like Frida Kahlo, sitting in hospital, in a corset, painting on myself. I'm not interested. I want to be doing the real physical thing.
I think we've got time for, one more question.
But no, you've asked lots. Someone who hasn't asked a question, sorry.
Can I just ask a question quickly? Were you friends with David Cameron, and are you still?
David Cameron, okay, so here we go. I voted for David Cameron twice, and then I wrote to David Cameron, and I actually said to him, why you're going the second time, God only knows. And he wrote back to me almost in agreement, right? I do not understand why, first of all, I don't understand, I have my idea, I don't understand why David Cameron called a referendum when he seriously was not going to stand for another term. Why didn't he just say to them, not on my watch, you find someone else, but I'm not doing this. David Cameron was moderate, he was a moderate Prime Minister, same as Tony Blair. And I find it really fascinating that both of these men, who were moderates, moderate within the Tories, moderate within Labour, both of these men I voted for, both of them fell out of favour by doing the most stupid thing in politics that anyone could ever do. I don't understand why David Cameron called a referendum on Europe, and I don't understand why Tony Blair went for the weapons of mass destruction. And both of these men, who were fine politicians and essentially good people, will be remembered in history for doing the most terrible things to our political system. And I don't understand why they fell for it. I don't understand why they did it. And it really aggrieves me to know that I supported both of these men. And I don't understand it. And all I know now is from both of these actions, we are in such a mess. From the Brexit point of view and from the repercussions of going into Iraq. We've never recovered, and for me, being sort of how I feel about war and how I feel about, especially how I feel about Brexit, I just can't think of anything more hideous that this country could be doing right now. It's really, really, really insane. And don't worry, I have told David Cameron this. I think the whole world knows my opinion on this. And for anyone else that wants to know, for the rest of my life I've always voted Labour, apart from once when I abstained. And right now, as far as Theresa May is concerned, she's not really my kind of Prime Minister. But I didn't see any men wanting to jump in and do this job at the time. I saw twits like Boris Johnson run from the, run when it actually dawned on him what he was doing and what he'd have to do. I saw him running like the rest of us did. This country is going to go into the most, it's frightening. And it's not scaremongering. They're saying the Queen will have to leave London because of rioting, because of this, because of that. I don't want to see any of those things happen. If we leave Europe and it all turns out okay and we're happy eating our cabbages, and we're happy living on our island with our island mentality, fine. I'll go along with that. But I don't think it's going to work out like that. And especially financially, and the worst thing it's going to be is for the people who are the poorest within our society. They're the people that are going to be victims from this hideous, hideous decision that was made to have the referendum in the first place. And if anything, we should have another referendum now that people understand the consequences. And I said to people, if it comes up Brexit again, so be it. But last time, people were not informed of what the consequences were and what was going to happen. And they're now starting to understand. And all the people in the car industries that are going to lose their jobs, it's just going to be, the whole thing is a disaster, a mess. And it wasn't thought out. And if we were going to leave Europe, should have started working on this 10 years ago, slowly, and working it out properly. And also all the problems that we had within Europe would have been so much easier to deal with from inside Europe. We're still going to have exactly the same problems outside Europe, but worse, because we won't even be able to talk to Europe because we're outside. So I think it's really sad and it's a real shame. And I actually meant to wear my Euro-British badge today, but I forgot. So and when I had my show in Brussels, I actually went around in the streets. I had this blue suit on with my Euro-British badge on, and I actually went around shaking people's hands saying, hello, I'm Tracey Emin, I'm representing Britain, and I'm going to say to you, I really do not want to leave Europe. And people thought it was fun and nice and everything, but actually it's really sad that we're losing. I just think it's a disaster. So, and what was you saying about David Cameron? Yeah, David Cameron essentially could have been remembered as being a kind Prime Minister that brought in some really, really, really good home laws for Britain. One of them being gay marriage, which I'm a massive supporter of and always have been. There were many laws that were brought in under his watch and the changes in Britain that were really great, and it's just a tragedy that it's ended up like this for everybody. And even for the people who are supporting Brexit, I think it's still a disaster because they're not getting their way. So.
Okay, I think we've got time for one more question.
That was the question.
That was
It
the
was
question.
answered. Thank you, Adrian.
Great, thank you.
There's a lady at the back that's been trying to ask a question for a long time.
Hi. You were saying that you just quickly paint and you don't think, but when I was walking around, I felt so much your body immediately, and also just like, I don't know, you have this, you're saying that these things are so fresh to you and you're reacting, but you have the skill of you've done 1 million hours of painting, you can do that.
Yeah, I've done it.
You're so skilled, so you can just fling it around and it's fucking amazing.
Yeah, I can, and I am. That's what I'm trying to say to you. Can you imagine?
I'm not a critic. So I'm just like, I can just see that the skill is bomb.
Yeah, but can you imagine how angry I am with myself? Like your school report, and it goes, if Tracey hadn't sat at the back of the class and mucked around so much, she could have been, whatever. This is what I'm saying. I'm only just getting my act together. I'm only just realising all of these skills and all this stuff that I spent 7 years. I was a professor of drawing at the Royal Academy, but I spent 7 years learning to draw, really learning to draw. I spent years and years and years learning to paint, and I'm only now putting that to use and understanding it. So I have a certain amount of frustration with myself and anger. But at least it's not too late. I'm getting on with it. So, whether people like it or not, this is what I'm doing. And I'm really, really, really pleased that I am. Because, as I said, I'm doing the right thing, not the wrong thing.